color is better? Orange or blue? Oh, you're already here? What do you think? Which color is better? I think blue is better any day. Was that a hard decision or an easy decision? Was that a tough decision or a light decision? This lesson is all about vocabulary related to decisions. So join me and stay with me because we are going to learn so many phrases to talk about decisions. And my name is here, Michelle. Right, so here we have some phrases with us that we can use to talk about decisions. The first phrase is the first step of decision making. Whenever you try to make a decision, the first step that you take is to reach to the decision, which means the process of making a decision. Right, so whenever you're trying to make a decision, the first step that you take is to reach the decision. Sometimes you can also use the word to make a decision instead of saying to reach to a decision. You can say to make a decision, but whenever you use make, you do not write to. You'll not say to make to a decision. You could also say come. To come to a decision. So you could use it in a sentence by saying, it took me a while to come to the decision of becoming a teacher. Or it took me a while to reach to the decision of becoming a professor. Something like that. Right, so let's move on to the next phrase that we have. A tough decision. So for you who do not know what tough means a difficult decision. Tough means difficult. So when we use this adjective with decision, we mean that the decision was very hard. It was not easy to take that decision. So what are some of the most difficult decisions that you've made in your life? When you're on those crossroads and you're thinking, which way should I go? Should I go right or should I go left? I've been on a state like that when I had a career choice to make and it was not an easy decision. So career choices are very tough decisions when we have to decide what we want to become. Right, so this is tough decisions for you. The next one we have is to consider the pros and cons. So pros and cons means advantages and disadvantages respectively. So pros means advantages and cons means disadvantages. So whenever you're looking at a decision that you need to make, you will always see the situation and think that what are the positive aspects and what are the negative aspects. Especially when you're investing money into something, a big sum of money, you'd always want to look at the pros and cons. And if you want to use it in a sentence, you could say, when I was buying this property, I had a long and serious look at the pros and cons. Here we have the fourth phrase with us, and that is to weigh them up. So weigh, as you know, it comes from the word weight. Does it come from this weight or this weight? As you can see, the spelling, it comes from this weight. This weight is to make someone wait when you're getting late. So when you're late somewhere and you make someone wait too much, that's this weight. But here we are talking about the weight in terms of heaviness. So when you're considering the pros and cons, the advantages and disadvantages, you look at which side is heavier. So if the cons, which is the disadvantage or the negative side, is heavier, then you will not take that decision. But if the pros and the advantages of a decision are on the heavier side, which means there are too many advantages to a decision, you would take that decision. So it's important to weigh up your important decisions in life. So if you want to use it in a sentence, you could say that I had to weigh up my decision for buying a car or buying a house. So here you look at the pros and cons for each of these decisions. The next one that we have is to consider our options. So options means the possible choices that you have when you're making a decision. So let's say that you want to buy a car and you have about 3 to 4 choices. You would like to consider your options. You wouldn't go with the very first car that you like. You'll think of more options which are better economically, which are better in appearance, and then you can buy the car. So I would like to consider all the options when I'm buying a car. That's how you can use it in a sentence. The next one we have is to mull something over. Mull means to look at carefully. So when you're very carefully looking at all the possibilities that, let's say, if I take this decision, the result is going to be this. So when you look at the results, possible results of a decision, that's when you're mulling over it. Looking at the possible results. So when we think about the decisions that the government takes for the welfare of the people, the government usually mulls over decisions for people's welfare. This means that they look carefully at the decisions which they want to take for people's welfare. The next one that we have is thought long and hard. How can you think long and hard? Thinking long and hard means when you think too much and for too long. Thinking too much. So you could say that, okay, now this is very silly, but then girls usually spend too much thought. They think long and hard about the clothes that they are going to wear. So this is how you can use this phrase in a sentence. Now we are going to look at some more phrases related to decision making. So now we have with us the next set of phrases that we are going to discuss for decision making. The first phrase that we have is torn between, which is the word torn is a past form for the word tear, which means when something is cut into more than one part. So whenever you're taking a decision and you have more choices, possibly you have two choices and you have to choose only one option, that's when you're torn between. When you have to choose only one option. So let's say that you are invited for a party by two of your close friends, Murray and Charles. And both of them have organized the party at two very different locations. And you have to make a choice. So that's when you're torn between Murray and Charles. You have to decide which party is it that you would like to go. Because you don't want to offend any of them, right? The next one that we have with us is to seek advice. Seeking advice is when you're asking someone to suggest to you which decision should you go ahead with. Asking for advice. Or asking for a suggestion. Let's look at the next one that we have, and that is an informed decision. So informed obviously comes from the word inform, which means when you have all the details about a particular decision, you know all the pros and cons, the good and the bad, and you consider everything to make that decision. So a decision where you have all the details considered. Details of facts. The decision to vote for a national leader must be an informed decision because that's the person who is going to rule you, who's going to decide, and who's going to run the country. So it's important to make an informed decision when you're choosing a national leader. You should know all the details and all the facts about the candidate so that you can choose the right candidate for yourself. The next one that we have with us is to talk it over, to talk over something, which means to talk in detail about something so that you can finally take a decision. So to talk in detail about something. So when you're not very sure of a decision that you want to make and you want someone else to discuss it with, not to speak over the phone, but maybe even face to face, when you need to discuss a decision, that's when you talk it over. The next one that we have with us is to toy with the idea. So toy means that a decision is in its initial stage. The decision has not been taken. It's just a thought in your mind. You've only started thinking about a decision. So thinking about a decision. When it's just an idea. So it could be that you're very frustrated with your corporate job and now you want to set up your own business. But this thought of setting up your own business is still just an idea, so you're possibly toying with the idea of establishing your own company. That's how you can use it in a sentence. Now we look at the next word that we have with us here, and that's a hasty decision. So hasty is an adjective which means something which is done very quickly, in an instant. So something that is done very quickly. So have you ever made a hasty decision? We tend to make hasty decisions, especially when we are buying phones. It happens that there's a new phone in the market and you're really tempted to buy it. You like the appearance of the phone and you've just browsed through the features. But you do not know how does the phone work. You've not read the reviews carefully. And that's when you make a hasty decision and later you regret. So be careful about making a hasty decision. Sometimes we also call it as a snap decision, which is made just in a snap or in an instant. A snap decision or an hasty decision for you. The last one that we have is an overturn, when you want to overturn a decision. Now, this is something that many people want to do for a lot of decisions that we've made. Whenever we make a decision and we regret it, means we are not happy with the decision, we want to change it or we want to reverse it. So, changing or reversing a decision is called overturning a decision. To change or reverse. There are certain decisions in our life which are irreversible and we cannot overturn them, but some smaller decisions which we can surely overturn is like buying a t-shirt. So let's say you went for shopping and you really liked this t-shirt and you took it without trying it. And when you got back home and you tried, you realized that it's oversized. And then you want to go back and change it for the correct size. So that's when you overturn your decision and you return the t-shirt. Now with this one, we come to an end of today's lesson where we have learned vocabulary related to decision making. Now you can freely go and talk about different decisions that you've made in your life if you regret any or any decision that's still toying in your mind, which means you're still deciding upon it. I hope this was fun for you. Please come back for more lessons with me. Bye-bye.